2024, 2008 month. How did that happen? How did we get here so quickly? I'm always astounded. Now, importantly, the archives are free. You can go ahead and enjoy listening to those anytime. Another good reason, of course, to donate if you can. Now, before we start broadcasting at you in anger, I would like to acknowledge the custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
it is the Darkenjung.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, of course, the Iraq people, thank you so much. And we would like to very much thank and acknowledge the elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you. Now, so obviously some things have happened in the past, but I want to quickly apologize for, well, not apologize for Sunday, but my daughter was performing at the Opera House on Sunday. It's like a school dance kind of extravaganza, a lot of schools. So that's pretty cool. It's the whole day, and my daughter's troupe came on at 4 p.m. of the time, which is, believe it or not, the same time our show starts on a Sunday here in Australia, which of course is a made-up country, doesn't exist. The Earth is flat, we're surrounded by an ice wall, and we're all falling all the time. There's no gravity. That's right. If you believe that, I've got a mountain that you might like to buy.
My wallet's in the car.
Hurrah! Limited stock. No, I was. It was actually really cool. Funny thing, they had metal detectors there. I don't remember metal detectors ever before, but there they were, which is funny because my pockets were full of coins and I was wearing steel-cap boots. I passed through quite nicely.
And
thank you very much.
Chastity belt went off too, right?
Chastity, that's the only thing that went off. No, but I'll be honest with you. It was a great experience. We're talking like primary school kids here. Dance performances, and some were really spectacular. I have to say, my daughter's group performed really well. Some other kids, some other schools. I mean, it's professional level. Really, I have to say, there's some astounding stuff. But that's why I couldn't be here with you guys, and Dave, of course. Did a great job.
I held the fort, man. It's all good.
I didn't hold the fort. You built the town.
I built the town.
Yeah, it's the town that rock and roll built, baby. But it's certainly interesting. What's happened in the past couple of days, where there was an analyst. This was a British analyst working for the British government, saying that the greatest threat to peace in the Middle East is not Iran, not Syria, none of those. Nope, it is Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing cohorts. That's right. That's from a British think tank. Okay, that's new. And what has also been happening, of course, you might have seen the riots. Still happening, I think, in the UK. Quite disturbing, if I do say so myself.
On Sunday, Mickey, I questioned, what does it actually take to riot? I mean, you can protest.
Okay.
Number one, you can have an opinion. That's fine. You can organise a protest march, and then there's rioting. I mean, that's completely different.
Yeah.
And so when I asked the question, I was also asking, is this, a style of things to come? Is everyone on edge so much that, the straw that breaks the camel's back? Are we all going to do this? What's the story, and what's your point of view?
Look, that's actually an excellent thought there, and I'll tell you. Because what pushes you over the edge, right? And how much does it take? And you will agree, all of us, I'm sure, that the crime that sparked these was a heinous crime, if ever there has been one. Now, the person was born in Great Britain. They were not refugees.
No.
They were Muslim, though. I think that's correct.
That I haven't been able to determine directly.
Yeah,
From news. News is avoiding it.
They are, and I understand why, but I think I heard it. Anyway, it's certainly what seems to have happened, and that's why the Muslim community has come out and said, and we still don't know why he did what he did. But having said all of that, I do fear and feel that we are being pushed down a certain path.
Mm-hmm.
I think these events are happening to provoke a certain response. I think these events are happening to I mean, this is horrific. I mean, and this is more and more normal. Is the wrong word, but we hear about children dying all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. In doesn't matter where it is, be it Palestine or well, not really Palestine, but I guess Gaza, right? Israel, on both sides now, obviously, and then these senseless crimes that happen in the Western world, in the UK, in the US, elsewhere. In China, there was a man who stepped these children to death. You might cast your mind back a little. In Bondi, we had an attack, a man on women, and a child was a baby, in fact, was injured in that attack. So, and I tell you how I feel about that, Dave, because I myself fear that I was programmed, because I get these rage. Attack is the wrong word.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see red, but I feel this deep-seated rage in me that bubbles up and doesn't necessarily seek an outlet, but it's certainly there. It's seizing. Right? It's this rage I have toward the world, I guess, and it's I see it elsewhere as well. We're pushing people to the brink. Now, cast your mind back just 20 years prior to 9/11, right?
Yep.
And then after, and look at how we're behaving and what we're what's going on in society, and look at all the crises that we've had. So 9/11 was a big one, obviously. Everybody was afraid and uncertain and scared, and we didn't know what to do, and how can we, are we going to be next? I mean, in the scheme of things, your chances of being killed in a terrorist attack are much less than being hit by lightning. Okay, that's just a fact. Or it's more likely a shark is going to attack you and eat you before you get killed in a terrorist attack. But nonetheless, it's of course on our mind because it's so spectacular. It is so spectacular, right? These attacks, and so horrific. But so this uncertainty started, and then we have these one crisis after another, Dave. There's one crisis after another. There's wars and more wars. Then we have the financial crisis, and millions, maybe tens of millions of people lose their savings and their homes across the world and their jobs. It doesn't get better, right? Things get worse and worse, and nothing.
We have inflation.
Yeah.
We can't even afford to live.
No.
Then we have the fires and the floods.
Yes. All of that.
There hasn't been a year where there's been nothing.
No, absolutely. In fact, it seems to be getting worse. Like,
totally.
The 100-year flood now happens every year. The 100-year storm.
That's right.
Every year. Yeah. And
set your watch by it.
Yeah, you can. That's right. And now you have a cost of living crisis as well, right? And every country has it, right? And then it's happening here. And the thing is this: we don't have a cost of living crisis. What we have is greedy parasites and profiteers is what we have. That's the cost of living crisis. It's got nothing to do with anything else.
Because, Mickey, God forbid they should sell us things with, just a little, like, slight margin. Yeah?
Yeah, good. Oh,
to make
good
it
grief.
easier for us. No.
Can't do that.
They're such a parasitic group that there was once I think it was an Italian cartoon. Oh, I just can't. The name's on the tip of my tongue and I can't get it. Hopefully by the end of the show I'll let you know. But it was about the mosquitoes that drank the blood of a creature, and you were watching them like the creature was Earth, but it wasn't.
Okay.
And there was mining, and the mosquitoes couldn't drink enough, so an entrepreneur came around and said, well, if I put drilling in it, we can drill and pump it out, right? Rather than just for the individual, we can just feed the masses. So they ended up, there was a dried husk of a carcass left, and they all went broke. They killed the host with greed. And from it was beautiful, and I'll see if I can remember what it is.
Please, are we foreshadowing here? Is that what's happening?
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
And this was from, I think it was from the 80s or something. This cartoon, or earlier, maybe the 70s.
But it is this feeling of general distress. Is probably the best word. And some people handle it a lot better than others, but a lot of people are breaking. Now this breaking manifests in many different ways, and please, I don't want to evoke feelings of negativity in you, but
no,
certainly, a lot of people, in my opinion, are driven to suicide. I think suicide rates are spiraling out of control.
I didn't commit suicide, Becky.
No, neither did I. Especially for younger people, especially in societies that drive you towards, I guess, success, if you want to call it that, or achievement, and it's harder and harder to do just that because of the nature of the world we live in. So there's a lot of pressure on younger generations than I think maybe ever before. Certainly, if you do get into a job, the chances of you owning your own home in most countries on the planet is now a complete pipe dream.
Yep.
And not only that, but your job security is almost non-existent. We've created an underclass of platform, or we like to call them gig workers, but they're really platform workers. And we have created massive uncertainty in every sector of society except for the parasites. Now, the people at the bottom, they're always at the bottom. They always had a hard time and not much hope, right? But now that kind of disillusionment is now filtering up into the middle class and upper middle class. And someone said something recently which I thought was very apt. They said, well, a dystopian future is just everybody living like the people below the poverty line. Not just the people below the poverty line, but the middle class as well. That's your dystopian future right there. And that is true. And we are running towards that future. And no amount of distraction can tell you any different, because we are ultimately being pushed over this cliff. We don't want to run toward the cliff, and we don't want to jump off this cliff. We are being pushed harder and harder every day. There is not a good bit of news. What's here? Okay. Bangladesh. The prime minister flees the country.
Quits.
Children.
Quits and then flees.
Yeah, children were killed. Children were killed in the protests.
And
blindfolded Palestinians.
Yeah,
right?
with a total of 90 dead.
Yeah,
Shot dead.
That's just nuts.
Uh-huh.
Now, blindfolded, bounded, beaten. Palestinians tell of Israeli abuse. And what is this? Stock market, crashes.
Yeah, it was the greatest crash since the 90s.
Yeah, U.S. Airbase in Iraq was attacked.
Yep, we had servicemen injured.
Yep, 5 dead as the tropical storm Debbie soaks southeastern U.S., etc.
India's floods, Mecky.
Oh my goodness, yes. And the mudslides.
And
yes.
the mudslides have lost 200 in one town.
Yes. Now, you could say, well, yeah, sure, bad things
storms
always
happen, Mecky, yeah. It always happens.
Yeah. But I tell you what, a lot more people are experiencing a lot more extreme circumstances. And I'm not just talking about the weather. I'm talking about extreme circumstances in every sector of your life. In every sector. In Australia, we're now looking at reducing the intake of universities as far as foreign students are concerned. You know why? Because it'll help us with our housing crisis. That's why. Okay.
That's right.
It's funny,
Don't build more houses. No, don't do that.
Don't do that. I have to just slightly stray from the path here, because during the week I had this thought.
Oh.
And I just reminded myself of this thought. Universities.
What was that?
You see, we always say that academia is, it's impartial, it's scientific, they follow the evidence, etc., etc. I mean, that's the ideal, right? That's what science should do.
Yeah.
Right? Except that's not true at all. Universities, colleges, institutions of higher learning, whatever, research institutes as well, they all need money, all of them. And universities, especially in the Western world, have made a lot of money off foreign students, a lot of money, because they charge more full fees, etc., etc. Plus, they have to pay for board and so forth. It all costs, and the universities make a lot of money. Now that's being curbed. But when I heard that report about this foreign students maybe being, or the places for foreign students being shut down, a thought came to me that universities need money, and they need a lot of money. And universities is where the research happens, right?
That's right.
And this is where most of the papers, or most of the I guess most of the papers come from that are published in the journals, right? That's where they come from. So now, where does this money come from? This money comes from the government. One, that's usually a lot of government funding, but a lot of the funding is private. Like alumni, fundraisers, etc., etc., or donations.
Yeah, wealthy benefactors.
Correct, but only, in my mind, and this is human nature, only if they toe the line. Oh
yeah, totally.
If you have on your staff scientists, researchers, thinkers that don't fit the bill, and you are dependent on your donors, you will get rid of those individuals, or groups of people, in fact. Right? And it goes further than that, as we discussed last time. So you have money essentially controlling our academia, because that's just how it is. That's just the way of the world. But even more directly, as we discussed with you, they are now controlling archaeological digs and other things, as like the Tepe. Yes.
Yeah.
And you go,
Not
what?
that I say that name out loud. I'm sorry.
But it's a thing.
I don't need any more problems.
No more cutting of the cable. But it is really important to understand just how much this money influences everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And media, come on. Free media, really? You're think?
Funny.
Yeah, you are funny. There's no such thing.
That's right.
In fact, most of the stuff we see is because that's what they allow us to see. I mean, that's all you need. And most of it is designed to enforce the primary message: is don't rock the boat. don't rock the boat. Just be glad that you have what you have, and look at these people that have nothing. Look at how they're struggling, And there's always examples of people that are doing worse than you, which makes you feel better on a very, very base level. It's nothing to be proud of. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just how we are as human beings. If if someone is worse off than we are, then we do feel better. It's like we might even be inclined to help them, but ultimately we are glad it's not us. We are glad it's not us. And that's where we are. So every single thing, even the things that you thought were free, whatever that means, like as in free to do what they want, are not. Academia is not free.
Yeah.
And if you do not toe the line as a scientist or researcher or inventor, you will simply disappear.
You won't get any money. That's right.
No money, and worst case scenario, you actually will completely disappear. And that's bad, just in case you're wondering. So what do we have left? Because I mean, the more I thought about this, Dave, the more I thought this feels extremely hopeless. What can we do?
I think you got it in one. Then that's good,
right?
Yeah.
It's like we have. I mean, what we have, believe it or not, are places like this. Okay, this station, right? You might not agree with everything everybody says here. You don't have to.
And that's expressing critical thinking.
Yeah, you have a different opinion, and I listen to some of the shows here, and I don't agree with everything they say, and it's okay. That's my right. It's their right?
Yeah.
But it's an alternative point of view, and nobody here is pushing the agenda, as far as I can tell, which is good. But everywhere else, that's all you're getting, and we are now at the point. To come back to the original point that we discussed, Dave, I think they're trying to push us into lemming behavior. Like lemmings allegedly all commit suicide at a certain point.
Just point me at the cliff, Mackie.
Just point you at the cliff. But, I mean, to kill children is a whole different level of commitment. There are people that are willing to die for what they believe in, and I think that's it can be a noble thing. You're willing to die, give your life for what you believe. It can be a noble thing. A lot easier to kill for what you believe in, right? Because you don't have to give up your life; you just kill it, right? But then to kill children is a whole another level of, I don't even know what to call it. But we're seeing more and more of it. We're seeing more and more of it. And I think people are being pushed into these psychotic episodes, or worse, programmed to commit these atrocities, to further the agenda.
Are people getting nudged?
I think so. I think people are getting nudged. I absolutely believe that people are getting nudged. And I feel it myself. I feel it. I feel the psychological distress. Yeah, I do, and I see it, and it's not depression. It's not the black dog. It's not that. It is this rage and this anger at the state of the world, and for some people, it manifests in different ways. And they can't express themselves. Right? They haven't got outlets, and they snap. But I do believe that a goodly number of these atrocities are planned. Sounds horrible, right? Yeah. You think, who would do that? Who would do that, right? Well, the same people that 3M poisoned the planet. The same people that over-medicated America. The same people that carry out medical experiments in Africa. The same people that had people walk into the aftermath of atomic explosions just to see what happens.
Yeah, military-led, yeah.
Those are the people that would do that. Because the thing is this. The parasites do not look at the world in the same way as you, Dave, me, might look at it. They look at it at a much more utilitarian way. What is useful to me? What do I need to do to achieve my goals? Never mind anyone else, because there is no one else. No one else matters. Only my goals matter. And I will do whatever I can to achieve them. And I will do whatever I can to stay in the power position that I'm in. Okay? It takes an amazing human being to be in power and then surrender that power. Okay? For whatever reason. I had power, okay, and now I don't. That's okay. And in the past, in the history of the world, there have been people like that. They were called upon during critical times, and they became dictators and whatever. But then they went back to being normal people after the job was done. Not often, though, not very often. And that's where we are. These parasites are now experiencing generational power, and they had generations to plan this. And in some instances, it's been the same entity that has been around for a very long time indeed. And we are being pushed further and further off the edge, right? We are living in a time that will see massive change and massive curbing of our freedoms. What they want us to do is live in 5-minute cities or 3-minute cities or 10-minute cities.
15-minute cities at the moment.
Thank you, 15-minute cities. What does it mean? We're all concentrated in an area, and everything that you need is within 15 minutes of travel. Everything. Everything you could possibly want is within 15 minutes. And you can pack in a whole bunch of people into a very small space, and control is easy at that point. It becomes a panopticon because you don't know who's watching you. Cameras are everywhere, okay, and you become your own jailer in many ways, right? You don't feel like it because you can still go to the supermarket and buy these things that you want, and you might even book a holiday once in a while. They let you out of your little 4x4 cage that you call your apartment. But ultimately, they would like us to live like the people in Hong Kong live, for example. Hong Kong is the most densely populated place on the planet. And I've been there a couple of times. And I tell you, they're not lying. They're not lying. We visited some people there that lived there, and their flat, which was considered large by Hong Kong standards, plus they had access to like an outside area, like a rooftop kind of thing, which was considered luxury. There were, I think there were 4 people and 2 dogs living in a space designed for 2 people.
Wow.
And one of the bedrooms, and this must have been the maid's bedroom, and if you're familiar with Southeast Asia, you know that these little broom cabinets, they literally are little broom cupboards, where you can just put a mattress in, and that's pretty much the room.
Yep.
And one of the people was sleeping in there. Now, they didn't have a maid, so that was just another bedroom. But that's the kind of living that they want for us. No kitchen. There was a heating plate, and then most people would just eat out because that's just what you do. It's similar in many Southeast Asian countries, where it's cheap. It's cheaper to eat out, in fact, than it is to cook at home.
Yeah.
Never mind the space that you need. So, yeah, Dave, I do believe we're being pushed, and I believe we're being pushed harder and harder every day. I mean, look at the atrocities that are piling up. It boggles the mind.
So when I asked the question about what does it take to riot, right? Yeah, I agree. I think there's enough programming out there to show, and this is only with the BLM movement specifically, there wasn't that much policing done to prevent it, rather than let it burn itself out, mind the pun. Because if you express yourself, then you've run out of words. And you've run out of fight, and you don't worry anymore. And then look, that was done in the US at tremendous cost to the communities. Tremendous cost. So from the perspective of asking the question, what does it take? I think I think we're all familiar with what it actually takes. There are pundits out there talking about civil war, and this has been bubbling now in the media for like the last 18 months, talking about the US. Should this happen? Civil war. Should this happen? Different thing. Should that happen? And we've just seen, you know what? English people aren't rioters per se. It isn't like, when was the last time they rioted? I don't know. Ages ago, right? Beyond my memory's worth of memory. They're not a type to go and do this. Now, I asked a question on Sunday, which I think is valid still, and seeing more and more news come through. And I'm not talking specifics in England, not talking about that. But has there been, as a question, it's all the way, I always ask questions, has there been success in assimilating cultures together, and while you can hold the banner of the most multicultural, society on the planet, isn't it just like Deep Space Nine? It's living on a hair trigger, right? That's the best way of putting this, because there's always some kind of trouble on Deep Space Nine, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Trekkie, as well as having a Star Wars. All sci-fi, by the way. Even 1940s black and white sci-fi. I just love it. Especially that. Because it's free on YouTube, you can find it. What I'm questioning here is, and I mentioned this before with Mekin and knows what I'm talking about, this is the hardest thing to get away from. So the power of social media, rightly or wrongly, any information you might see, and this is en masse. I'm just lumping all social media into one big Venn diagram. All of them. And then you have something extremely troubling that occurs. Now, for whatever reason, not specific to England, whatever reason, information isn't accurate. Who's controlling the narrative? Becky, you and I know this more than anybody else. And that is, when there's a problem, own the narrative as the truth source, single point of truth. Get out there immediately, tell your story, single point of truth, very important, because if you don't say anything, everyone imagines what there was, rightly and wrongly, usually wrongly. Their message is louder because you're being quiet. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that has been made in the media, and not specific to England again, I might remind you, right, is that filling the silence with more silence is the worst thing you can do. So, Meki, I'm on point here, right?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, absolutely. Can you hear me, buddy?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, good man. Absolutely.
So that, like with the Microsoft Azure issue, which resurfaced yesterday, by the way, as well. Not many people knew about the second time around.
Oh, really?
They obviously backed out the change, went to reapply it, and another issue happened, and it backed it out again. So, just going from the thing that made us all aware that the fragility of Windows is because the antivirus kernel, if it fails, your Windows fails. Now, that's only because Microsoft allowed the kernel to have a companion, and that's their version has a link to it, but any other vendor can make a link to it, and that's where the problem started, right? And Yeah, appalling as all of that was, who owned the narrative? Where was the CEO? I actually watched him on X talking about the problem.
Okay.
Before it was talked about in the media, they were using, paraphrasing his terminology from his immediate broadcast. But why wasn't that broadcast being, propagated around the world, where and to everyone told, turn off everything, don't upgrade this, do this, with an instruction list to prevent it? That didn't happen. We just watched it occur. And they let it occur, as bad as it was. And so, anyway, getting back to my point. If it's a tinderbox, all of our societies are a tinderbox. I'm not saying it is. I said if, and I'm setting a scenario here. Do we fix it? That's probably the best question I can ask. Can we fix it so that we don't do what Britain has done should something terrible happen? Are we either complacent enough, happy enough in our own skin? Are we okay with our society trusting someone else to deal with it? Can we have critical thought? Are we able to discern the truth from the lies? And are we trained enough, Mackie, to be able to not riot?
Prior to COVID, or SARS-CoV-2, so prior to 2020, I would have said yes. Especially in Australia. Because in Australia, I felt we keep a modicum of common sense. Especially in the countryside, believe it or not. Especially in the countryside.
Yeah.
Out bush. That's where you've an abundance of common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cities, cities maybe not so much. But after SARS-CoV-2 and the fist fights over toilet paper, Dave, I'm not so sure. And just think about this in the context of what we're saying here now, right? People were having fisticuffs over toilet paper,
Mm-hmm.
arguably a commodity that you can live without.
That's right.
Can live without. If the chips were down and you had a choice between, what's the one thing you want to take to the desert island? 5,000 rolls of toilet paper. Okay. Well, good. Very good.
Only 5,000?
And
Double
we saw the ugly side of ourselves. Not everybody, obviously. And the funny thing is, the preppers never partook in any of the
Just like told you so.
Yeah, absolutely. But not as I guarantee you, not a single prepper was part of the toilet fisticuff.
No, that's
I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
I will put my bottom dollar on that. But
yeah,
it gives me. I'm very good at judging people. I really am. Over the years, interviewing people and all kinds of things, I'm actually really good. And I've very seldom been wrong. But it taught me so much
about the human condition.
It did, Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had told me, Mackie, I'll bet you $1 million
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to be fighting over toilet paper in 2 months' time, I would have taken that bet.
Oh yeah, totally. And gone, you're an idiot. Yeah,
Completely.
That's
Yeah, make it 10 million. Double or nothing.
Dang
no.
it! I missed my opportunity.
Yeah, I know, right? And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is who we are.
Mm.
This is who we are. Not only are we stupidly aggressive, okay, and I thought we maintain enough common sense and a modicum of self-respect, so no matter what we're fighting over, it wouldn't need to be fought over, right? But
yeah, imagine those. Yeah.
But it was
I'm with you.
toilet paper, Dave, of all things. If it was canned beans or bottled water, I go, I get it, because if the chips are really down and you're facing extinction, I understand why you would fight over baked beans and bottled water.
Yeah, totally.
But not toilet paper. So
I'll tell you, the gluten-free aisle was full.
Yes, yeah. So was the vegan aisle. No problem
That's
there.
right.
But I don't know that I have much hope for us here. I don't.
I lost a whole bunch of faith, Mackie, in people. But I'm going to say this on one side, I lost, and also in the government. That's when I lost the most faith because of what we know now
Yeah.
to be true. Kansas is actually suing Pfizer.
Yeah. Good. See what happens there. I mean,
Well, hopefully, because of false advertising and a whole bunch of things, right? So, like we wait, wait with bated breath on that one. But follow the science, and I just started getting old.
Yeah.
And look, I think COVID was two things, right? One, it was a panic, and I'm going to be very careful how I word this. It was a panic over something that we didn't really know very much about, which is great fear. That's how you make fear. You have something you don't quite know, and then you have social media do the hard yards for you, and propagate the fear. I'm not saying it was something that shouldn't be feared. I'm not saying that. I'm saying then you just need a little bit of overreach from the police and the government, and hello fascism.
Yeah.
That's the thing, Mackie, that surprised me the most is how close a normal civilization, let's call it a democracy, how close a democracy, it doesn't matter what leadership it is, how close that is to fascism. It shocked me. I think that was the hardest lesson that I had to learn.
I wasn't too shocked about that. I've been saying it for some time now that we no longer have a democracy here.
Yeah, well, that's true.
In fact, we're living in a fascist
even
society.
made,
But
the
I understand what
isn't
you're
even
saying.
made of cardboard, Mickey.
Yeah, but see, a lot of people are still.
These exits are painted on.
What? Who authorized the paint? It would have come to a lot of people as a shock, though, and I understand that.
Yeah.
Because, look, this is, I don't know, it's now something we just keep saying. When things go bad, they go bad very, very quickly, and that's exactly what happened here, right? And the overreach of government in many areas, the lockdowns, the enforced, I guess not really curfew, but certainly, the enforced area lockdowns, not just lockdown in your house, but also lockdown in the areas that you belong to, and the clear favoritism that was
the
played
asynchronous deployment between wealthy and the poor.
Yeah, and if you remember the apartment block in Melbourne, that was largely an immigrant, completely locked down.
Even in Western Sydney, yeah.
It was, it was shocking, and we were, putting the Chinese down for welding their apartment blocks shut.
Yeah, that's right.
We did the same, guys. Let's be very clear here.
They wouldn't even let an Uber Eats vehicle deliver food to them.
Yeah. Look.
No, they're sick. They're going to stay that way if they don't eat. In fact, they'll probably stop being like that. If they don't eat.
I don't want to play it down, right? But ultimately the mortality rate was less than the flu, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And on an annual basis, but of course, the problem with SARS-CoV-2 is not the immediate effect it has on you, but the long-term effect it has on you.
And it's still floating around.
And it's still floating around.
Mickey, I saw a news article today on LinkedIn, of all places, about people with cognitive decline who had both the virus and the jab.
Yeah.
And that's all they're saying. There's one bit of data, Mickey, I never was able to obtain anywhere. There's just no data on it. And that how many people had the virus but weren't vaccinated, and what is their success through this?
Yeah. Look,
There
it'd be
isn't any
interesting.
data on it.
Well, because that's the science that nobody wants to look at, right? So,
That's you don't follow that science.
right, yeah, that's the wrong science, everybody.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, look over here. That's where your funding is.
Ooh.
Funding, but it is. You're right, though, and so we still don't know what the effects of the various jabs are. We don't know. We don't really know. We know there are effects. We know that. We don't know what they are.
Well, there's something going on, Mickey, and I'm sure that it'll all get to what it all means.
Yeah. Now, apparently, this was reported so recently. SARS-CoV-2 is either the second or third highest cause of death now, with all the other things that come out of it, like organ failure, etc., etc. But
Yeah.
It is. Now, I want to go in and say potentially in conjunction with the jab. I want to say that's probably a fair statement as well to make, because, and this is the thing, now people are talking to the people that refuse to be vaccinated, right? And it's interesting, the reasoning, and one of the key reasons that was given by a lot of people was that it was untried science, and the mRNA delivery mechanism had never been tested. We had no idea what it really, I mean, certainly not on the long term. We have no idea what it does or will do.
Yeah.
And people didn't feel comfortable. So because this wasn't a traditional vaccination method. Now, let's be very clear here. Right? Vaccines have done a lot of good in the world.
That's right.
In the polio and other things, the smallpox.
Measles.
This used to kill millions of people, Dave.
Yeah,
Millions.
I know.
Measles, right?
Yep.
Is it inherently safe? No. But nothing is. There's nothing in the world that we live in that is inherently safe. Nothing. Water, if you drink enough water, in fact, if you drink chemically pure water, it'll kill you. Okay? So there's nothing inherently safe in the world. But in the bigger picture, having had the polio and smallpox and measles, etc., vaccines, has, in my mind, and I'm happy to be proven wrong here if you can give me the science, has saved, net saved tens of millions, maybe more lives, tens of millions of lives. Okay. Yes, there were negative effects on some people, absolutely. That this will always happen with anything that happens in the world. Any medication, any treatment, anything that you do. Some people go parachuting all their life, nothing happens, right? And then one person, the chute doesn't open. Is parachuting inherently unsafe? Yes, it is, but people still do it, right? It's that kind of gamble. It's highly unlikely that you're struck by lightning. That's why we still walk in the rain. We still, people go outside in the thunderstorm, because yes, you could get hit by lightning, but it's not likely.
You could in a snowstorm trip over, what is it called, a flurry?
Yes.
And then be buried by, a snowplow.
Correct.
Clearing a road next to the road, you could be buried by that snow. There's so many different things that can happen to you.
Yeah, but the fundamental difference this time was this was a new technology, completely untried, and people should be forgiven for not wanting that. They should also be understood for not wanting that. And if you don't understand the science, then you do what you like. But if you do understand the science and you are worried, then you should be allowed to express that, right? And in fact, now a lot of the judgments that were handed down, before are overturned, and people, I guess, after the fact now, cleared of any wrongdoing in refusing the experimental jabs.
Yeah.
Because it was experimental. You have to understand it was highly experimental.
It was the greatest experiment that's ever occurred in humanity. As far as persons receiving and participating in the experiment.
100%. 100%. 100%. So that's where we are, and we don't know still what is happening to all of us. I've said it before, and I will say it again, and I will stand behind this. Our fertility rate is going to decline significantly. It already is. It will decline even more. Not to the children of men level, I don't think. So it'll over the next 2 or 3 generations, we will see a significant drop in the world's population after this, because they did it, Dave. It was done.
Yeah, well, that's that Agenda
21.
Yeah, they're right there.
And birth control. This is funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Birth control is advocated by the Gates Foundation, by many others, and fundamentally, if you think about it, there's actually nothing wrong with it, right? You should be able to control whether or not you fall pregnant as a woman. That should be within your right through prophylactics and whatnot, various things that prevent you from getting pregnant. That is your right, I believe, as a woman, certainly, right? But it is, if it's being forced upon you, like some of these agendas intend to, right? Like in China, the one-child policy. I mean, if you listen to some of those stories,
there was a lot of euthanizing going on.
They would never turn this into a movie, because it would be the worst horror movie of all time.
That's
right.
And
by worst, I mean the most horrific horror movie of all time.
Wow, 2 minutes left. Can't believe it.
Jeez. But look, not to lose hope, or not to give in to despair.
Mm-hmm.
We can still stand up and be counted, right? Don't go rioting. Don't go rioting. Don't do it. Don't go rioting. Don't give in to the fear and uncertainty and express it as violence. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because you're just furthering their agenda. That's what the parasites want.
Exactly
want us.
What they want. That's right.
They want us to tear each other apart. That's what they want. Great. They think wonderful, right? No, that's playing right into their hands. Let's not do that. Let's do the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Let's do the other thing, and let us approach these situations with reason and an understanding of all the facts before we act. What actually happened? Was this a Manchurian kind of job? I mean, was this a sleeper? Was this someone that was over-medicated, pushed into this? What are the circumstances here? What is the background? Because it is not normal behavior. Even when you've got a psychotic break, it's got to be bad. And how did we get to this psychotic break in the first place? Right? I don't know, Dave. I feel a little, I feel saddened in many ways by what's happening in the world now, right? There's this senseless violence, and people taking advantage of the violence, because not all the rioters have an ideological motivation. A lot of them are just looting, right?
But England's got the most cameras on the planet.
They do.
And good luck if you manage to escape persecution. Good luck with that.
Absolutely. And here's the music. This has been Platos Cave. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Really appreciate it. Don't go anywhere. I'm sure the station's got something awesome coming up in the next few moments. But most of all, be safe.